Washington, D.C. is once again gripped by chaos as former President Donald Trump unleashes one of his most explosive social media blasts yet, telling Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer to go to hell. This incendiary message came just hours before the Senate was set to recess, marking the collapse of crucial negotiations over confirming Trump's federal nominees. In a moment that stunned both political insiders and the public, Trump's blunt and unprecedented language signals a new low in Washington's already fraught partisan battles. The stakes couldn't be higher. These confirmations are critical to filling hundreds of key government positions, from federal judges to agency heads, shaping the future of U.S. governance and policy direction. Behind the scenes, the talks had been bogged down by deep disagreements. Schumer demanded the release of frozen federal funds supporting vital programs like the National Institutes of Health and Foreign Aid. Meanwhile, Republicans pushed back hard, refusing to agree to additional spending, citing concerns over the ballooning federal budget and previous cuts. As negotiations collapsed, Trump's furious post lit the political fuse. His words encapsulate a strategy of all or nothing, pressing for nominee confirmations or threatening chaos. He urged Republican senators to stand firm and go home and fight against Democratic obstruction. This showdown isn't just about nominees. It's a proxy battle for control of the Senate's agenda, the future of federal budgets, and a preview of the bitter 2026 midterm elections. With billions already cut from the budget this summer, more cuts loom if no deal is reached. Across the nation, many are left asking, is this political brinkmanship or genuine dysfunction? And amid the shouting, who is actually governing? In this video, we'll unpack the explosive clash between Trump and Schumer, explore why Senate negotiations failed, and examine the broader political stakes. Stay tuned as we break down the drama shaking Washington and what it means for America's future. The political drama in Washington, D.C. took a fiery turn recently, with former President Donald Trump unleashing unprecedented language towards Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer. Just hours before the Senate was scheduled to adjourn for recess, Trump sent a blunt and shocking message on social media. Tell Schumer to go to hell. This explosive post broke all norms for political discourse coming from a sitting or former president. While harsh rhetoric in politics is not new, Trump's direct and visceral attack on the Senate leader escalated tensions to new heights. This verbal outburst was more than just a headline-grabbing moment. It came at a critical juncture when Senate negotiations were on the verge of collapse. The backdrop to this confrontation was the Senate's looming recess, which normally signals a temporary pause in legislative business and a chance for senators to regroup. But in this case, the recess was threatened by a complete breakdown in talks surrounding the confirmation of Trump's federal nominees. These confirmations are crucial, as they fill key administrative and judicial posts across the government. Yet the Senate was deadlocked, with no agreement in sight. Trump's message was a clear indication of his frustration and a signal to his political allies and opponents alike that the standoff would continue. This slide sets the stage for understanding the volatility in Washington's political environment. It reveals not just a clash of personalities, but a deeper struggle over power, policy, and control of the government apparatus. The question on many minds is, can this escalating conflict be resolved, or is the Senate gridlock here to stay? As we progress, we will explore the factors behind the failed talks, Trump's hardball strategy, and the political stakes involved in this ongoing saga. Following the explosive exchange between Trump and Schumer, it's important to understand the deeper reasons why Senate negotiations collapsed. leading to a political deadlock that could have serious consequences for governance. At the heart of the failure was a fundamental disagreement over federal funding. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer insisted that frozen federal funds must be released as a condition for moving forward with confirming Trump's nominees. These funds support critical government programs such as the National Institutes of Health, NIH, and foreign aid. For Schumer and the Democrats, releasing this money was not negotiable. They framed it as essential to maintaining government services and fulfilling commitments. However, Republicans, led by Senate GOP leader John Thune, pushed for quick confirmation votes without conceding to Schumer's funding demands. They argued that the federal budget had already been trimmed by billions this summer and that any further releases risked exacerbating spending issues. This fiscal conservatism was in line with broader GOP priorities of controlling government spending and reducing deficits. The clash became a standoff. Democrats deliberately slow-walked the nomination process, using procedural tactics to stall confirmations. This was a strategic move to pressure Republicans into agreeing to release the frozen funds. On the other side, Republicans remained firm, unwilling to give in to what they called unreasonable demands. Adding fuel to the fire, the looming recess deadline created urgency, but also hardened positions. Instead of fostering compromise, the pressure led to entrenched stances, neither side willing to budge. The impasse reflects a broader trend of partisan gridlock in Washington, where political battles often overshadow governance. Instead of working through differences, both parties use the negotiation as a weapon. Democrats leveraging program funding and Republicans leveraging confirmation votes. This slide highlights how political calculations and ideological divides made a bipartisan deal impossible, at least for now. The result is a Senate stuck in limbo, delaying crucial appointments and fueling public frustration with dysfunction in government. In the next slide, we will look at how Trump's own strategy contributed to this deadlock, his hardball tactics, and the high-stakes game he is playing. In the wake of the failed Senate talks, it's critical to examine former President Donald Trump's strategic approach to this crisis. Trump's stance has been clear and uncompromising. Either his nominees get confirmed or the Senate does not go on recess. This all-or-nothing tactic has escalated tensions and contributed heavily to the current deadlock. Trump's frustration with the Senate Democrats, particularly Chuck Schumer, boiled over into public outbursts, including his infamous "Go to hell" message. But behind the fiery rhetoric lies a calculated political play designed to rally his Republican base and put pressure on Democrats. Rejecting Schumer's demands as egregious and unprecedented, Trump positioned himself as the champion of conservative interests and governmental efficiency. He argued that blocking nominees would slow down essential functions of the federal government and undermine the Senate's responsibility to approve appointments. His strategy also involves encouraging Senate Republicans to adopt a hard line. Trump urged GOP senators to go home and fight the Democrats, signaling that he expects unified resistance rather than compromise. This call to arms has energized his supporters and framed the battle as a partisan showdown rather than a legislative negotiation. By adopting this confrontational posture, Trump aims to shift the political narrative. He portrays Democrats as obstructionists who are putting party politics above national interest, while positioning himself and his allies as fighters for law and order and government accountability. However, this approach carries risks. The standoff has resulted in no confirmations, leaving hundreds of key federal positions vacant. This creates operational challenges for agencies and courts that rely on confirmed leadership. Moreover, the hardball tactic may deepen political divisions and make future cooperation even more difficult. Instead of fostering bipartisan solutions, the conflict risks spiraling into prolonged dysfunction. This slide underscores that Trump's all-or-nothing strategy is not just about nominees. It's a calculated effort to influence power dynamics in Washington, energize his base ahead of the 2026 midterms, and set the stage for continued political warfare. As we move forward, we'll examine what's at stake politically and how this showdown could impact the broader legislative landscape. This political standoff over nominations and funding is far more than just a Senate procedural dispute. It's a battleground shaping the future of U.S. governance, policy, and electoral politics, especially with the 2026 midterm elections looming. At the core of the stakes is Trump's political agenda. Confirming his nominees is essential for solidifying influence over federal agencies, courts, and regulatory bodies. These appointments can steer policy decisions on immigration, environmental regulations, judicial rulings, and more. Failure to confirm nominees could undermine Trump's broader political goals and weaken Republican leverage. Budgetary issues add another layer of tension. The Senate has already passed $9 billion in budget cuts this summer, signaling a sharp focus on fiscal restraint. Trump has threatened to push for additional cuts in upcoming budget packages, potentially deepening divides with Democrats who prioritize funding for social programs, healthcare, and scientific research. Democrats, meanwhile, face pressure from their progressive wing to resist spending cuts and stand firm against what they view as Republican overreach. This dynamic fuels legislative gridlock, with each side unwilling to concede ground on core priorities. Time is also a critical factor. The government faces major funding deadlines this fall, including the risk of a shutdown if budgets and appropriations bills aren't agreed upon. This countdown puts additional pressure on lawmakers to reach a deal, but it also raises the stakes for who wins politically. The gridlock and brinkmanship are not just about policy, but also public perception. Both parties aim to shape the narrative ahead of the midterms, rallying their bases and attempting to sway undecided voters by portraying the other side as irresponsible or obstructive. This slide highlights the high political cost of the current stalemate. The battles over nominations and budgets are proxy wars for control over the country's direction, economically, socially, and legally. How this plays out will reverberate beyond Washington and influence the political landscape for years. In the final slide, we'll explore the broader question: is this just dysfunction or a deliberate strategy? And what does it mean for American democracy? As we reach the final part of this political saga, it's essential to step back and ask, what are we really witnessing in Washington? Is this explosive clash between Trump and Schumer a sign of true dysfunction? A breakdown of governance that harms the nation? Or is it a calculated political strategy, a high-stakes game of chess aimed at positioning for future power? Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer defends his stance by emphasizing that he is protecting critical programs like healthcare, scientific research, and foreign aid. From his perspective, stalling nominee confirmations is a necessary tactic to ensure essential funding isn't cut or withheld. Schumer portrays himself as a guardian of vital government functions against partisan attacks. On the other hand, Donald Trump frames the conflict as a battle against a radical left that he accuses of obstructing government and undermining America's interests. His use of harsh language, such as telling Schumer to go to hell, is part of a broader messaging effort to energize his base and portray Democrats as extreme and unreasonable. The result is a recess delay and stalled confirmations, leaving hundreds of important positions unfilled. The legislative calendar is disrupted, and vital government operations risk being hampered. This situation has sparked a national debate. Is this the messy but normal process of democracy where power is checked and balance is maintained? Or has political warfare reached a level that is counterproductive, with leaders more focused on scoring points than governing? Public trust is tested as many Americans watch a government seemingly paralyzed by partisan warfare. The question lingers: is anyone truly governing? Ultimately, this slide invites viewers to consider the complexities of modern American politics, where strategic brinkmanship, ideology, and power struggles collide. Whether one sees dysfunction or deliberate strategy, the stakes are high for the future of governance and democracy.